Welcome to Late Reviews. Today I'm going to talk about Auntie Lee Meat Pies from 1992. This is not going to be a long or in-depth review or anything. It's just going to be, well, a lazy recommendation, if you will, because, well, I just watched this movie and it's quite the movie and I just want to spread the love. So maybe introduce you to a movie you haven't heard about before. Something you might love as much as I did. Well, love might be a strong word here, but I liked it. So where should I really start with this movie? I could say that it's probably a horror comedy movie. It really is comedic, but the reason why I'm a bit unsure if it's really an intended horror comedy is because it does take a lot of the tropes from the 80s and then in a very early 90s way kind of plays with them. So all the cliches of how slashers and other horror movies were made in the 80s. This one does the same things, but kind of exaggerates them a little. This puts this ironic post-ironic sort of 90s counterculture thing to it, so it does come off as not being intentional, to be completely genuine, sort of mocking, spoofing 80s movies, but I'm also not sure I would put so much credit to the director that I don't think it's maybe is as smart. It might be completely serious and then maybe later sort of try to get the stamp as being, oh, intentionally ironic, intentionally spoofing other movies. And the reason why I'm saying this is that the director and main writer of this movie, Joseph F. Robertson, almost exclusively made erotic movies. His filmography, yeah, it's pretty much all porn. And that also means that if the dialogue does come off in this movie as being kind of this acting porn dialogue, it's because it pretty much is. I didn't know that going into it, but it really just shows that this movie was directed by a porn director. And actually, I think the biggest suspense in this movie is, will we get to see titties or not? Because there are a lot of women in this movie, they are scantily clad, and the thrill of the suspense was, okay, will we actually get to see titties? Spoiler alert, there will be titties. There will be some titterinos in this one.
Birdwatch, birdwatch!
Don't expect too much going into this, don't think you'll get an erotic horror movie, because it kinda is, but it's not as much porn as you would expect from a porn director. Anyway, enough porn. Let's talk about the movie. That's actually quite porn fixated anyway. Sex fixated. Yeah. It is made by a porn director, come on. So quick plot summary, and I will go into spoilers. I will not be spoiling absolutely everything, but honestly there's also not that much story to spoil, and a lot of the things I do want to bring up are some of the more quirky aspects of the story, and some of the more quirky scenes. So yeah, you'll be having a lot spoiled, but without having the quality and the essence of the movie spoiled for you. That is to be enjoyed and to be experienced. So the movie opens up with a car driving around outside of LA, and this mystery shooter shoots out the tire, and out comes a guy who turns out to be quite a nasty serial killer. And then this killer is immediately picked up by another car carrying a preacher. Well, the guy wants his car, so he kills the preacher, and in killing the preacher, he wrecks the car, and then immediately after that, he comes across this nice car, this convertible car, having this woman driving it, and she's attractive, so he takes her to some trees. I think he does the big no-no to her, but the way it's filmed, I'm not even sure. And she kills him and packs him away, and it's revealed that she was the shooter who shot off the tires of his car. So she was out hunting. And she goes back to this half farm, half butchery, where she's approached by Karen Black, playing Auntie Lee. Karen Black is one of those faces that was immediately familiar to me, but I couldn't remember where I've seen her before. She was, in other words, what's her face? And Auntie Lee scolds this woman for having been no-no'd.
How many times do I have to tell you not to let men take advantage of you like that?
I tried to get away, but it was too late. He was too big, too strong.
She is accused for being so attractive because of her Italian genes that she can't resist having men no-no her. Even when she explains she was no-no'd, she was scolded for not putting up enough of a fight against the no-knower, which also is something I've heard before, right? You haven't said effectively no unless you have, tried to run away, try to call in the Air Force, try to bite his legs off, because he just isn't to these people. Society really hasn't changed that much since the early 90s, sadly.
I did not realize that. Yeah. Russell, did you realize that?
No, I did not realize that.
Anyway, I'm getting way off track here, so where was I? Oh, right, so I really don't have to go scene by scene here. Quickly, it's established that this place is making meat pies that are very popular, that are being sold throughout the local area, the region, and she's trying to go statewide with it, and she's successful in doing so, her meat pies are very popular. And all the women working for her are very attractive women of all different ethnicities. Initially, I thought that she was the mother of all of these women, or she might just be taking them in. Some dialogue in it suggests she at least knows the fathers of these women, so that might be why she's the woman. I haven't actually, it's not really established where these women come from, how these come into her fold, why they just accept doing what she's doing. This movie makes very little sense. It really makes very little sense and really does nothing to establish anything. It's very poorly written, and it kind of makes it better.
He's not kidding.
No, he's not kidding.
So yeah, well, who actually do we have in this movie? We do have the women that are slowly introduced scene after scene. First one you see, who is a bit of a dimwit, and I think she's different from someone else who looks a lot like her. They are both brunettes, they both have very similar features. Later in the movie, someone is introduced as the baby, and she does look more like the woman you see it in the first scene, more so than the other smart brunette. That had me a bit confused. Then you have the very, very, very big-chested blonde, who is the smart one in the group, at least that's what they're saying. I'm not so sure if someone else seems smarter than her in the group. She seems to be the mastermind. Well, not the mastermind, but like the second in command after Auntie Lee. Then you have an Asian girl, often working together with this other brunette. So you have 3 brunettes, 1 Asian girl who's also brunette, and 1 blonde. So when I said different ethnicities, I mean not like very diverse cast, but still obviously different mothers, or at least different fathers, which is why I actually don't really understand what the relation is. And lo and behold, we have more, because Michael Berryman of The Hills of Eyes fame is playing the less mentally developed brother of Auntie Lee. He's working at the butchery and they all scold him. He's doing all the mundane things, such as cleaning up the things, carrying around corpses. Because I forgot to mention, this place kills men and makes meat out of them. So that's what this place is doing. And then we have Pat Morita of Mr. Miyagi fame, Karate Kid. So I really love this character. It was very refreshing to see him in this role. I'm not great with American dialects necessarily, so it does sound like most people in this movie talk in a very California way. But Pat Morita is talking like a southerner.
Ain't no wonder that you're selling like crazy to all them fancy restaurants.
And he's the local sheriff. So you have Mr. Miyagi playing a sheriff with a southern accent. Well, he's great in this movie. There's something very entertaining about seeing him with a southern accent. And he's still Japanese, which makes no sense. Because there's a scene where you see his office at the police station, and there's a huge painting of Emperor Hirohito, who is quite possibly a massive war criminal. He was never tried, so that's why I can't say he is a war criminal, but he probably signed off on a lot of terrible things during the Second World War and prior to that. And he's just having that in his American office. And he's having wakisashis standing on the side of his table. Like, this is a very Japanese office. So there's a detective looking for someone who has run away from his rich father or something. I don't really understand why he's looking for him, but he is. And he's going into this sheriff's office. The sheriff decides to threaten him with one of his wakisashis. Of course, if you don't know what a wakisashi is,
It means Japanese sword.
and he says, I got this at Iwo Jima, fighting on the other side.
Where'd you get this?
Iwo Jima,
You in the Marines?
on the other side.
But he's still talking with a southern accent. So what happened? Was he fighting for the Emperor? Was one of the 160 people who surrendered at Iwo Jima? I think it was out of 10,000 or more soldiers, 160 were captured alive. So is he one of those? And how and why did he develop a southern accent? This movie just gives me so many questions you're never answered. So yeah, the rest of the movie is just seeing these women bantering a bit, finding men, killing them. There are some erotic scenes. After the halfway mark, the last part of the movie is seeing them having found this New York glam metal band, and then try slowly luring them into a trap at their home. And while this is happening, of course, the private detective I mentioned earlier is after them, and Pat Morita is also sort of after them, only in a way where he's misled. I want to get the plot out of the way. Get away, plot! Because the plot is not important. What's important is everything else, which is also very little, but wow, this movie has scenes. This movie has scenes, and that's why I recommend it. I mean, first off, I should say, this movie has good kills. It has very inventive kills, and most of the kills, you don't expect the kills. In a lot of the scenes I thought, oh, that guy is being a dick. Wonder if something's going to happen to his dick. But no, actually you don't have any genital mutilation in this movie, which for some people would be a huge turnoff. For me, I've seen enough genital mutilation in movies. I don't need it anymore. I'm fine with other types of kills. And you do get other types of kills. I would say actually there's this one that is really cool and heads off to that one. It's warm tea. I'm drinking warm tea and it's summer. Honestly, actually, one problem, I think it doesn't have enough kills. It really could have had more kills. One thing that's a bit stupid, a bit silly about the movie, Auntie Lee has a big meat industry. She is selling a lot of meat pies, a whole lot of meat pies, really. Appears to have garnered a name for herself, so it's not a completely new industry, it's not a completely new business. But we are repeatedly shown exactly how many victims there are here. Because we're seen it in one scene. They say they light a candle for every single victim, and I didn't count them, there might be 50 candles. Maybe 100 at most. Then we see another one, nicely titled, Auntie Lee's Secret Recipes. And that's actually just names and addresses of all the people they killed. And of course, looking at that, there might be 200. Just a rough count, might be 200, might be more. And in one scene, they also alert to maybe they have moved around a bit. Because when it gets too hot, they might have to get out of there and set up shop elsewhere. So all these candles might not just be for this place exclusively. It might be for people who have killed elsewhere. And they do have a very From Dusk Till Dawn ending where you see all the cars of the victims, where they're actually not that many. And that does beg the question, how do they get enough meat for making all these pies, enough meat for having such a big industry, enough meat for wanting to expand to the rest of the country? Will they just kill more people? What's odd is that they are shown to be quite careful about who they actually do turn into pies.
Uh-oh. It's California.
In that they make sure that they are drifters, they might be criminals, people that will not be missed, people that are expected anywhere. But they also just pick up this glam metal band that's on tour. Like, okay, they will probably be missed. They are expected somewhere. People will actually be able to pinpoint exactly where they went missing. So if they're this stupid, how are they still in business? So many questions. So many goddamn questions for this movie. Wow. The dialogue, that's something. I mentioned that one of the ladies seemed to be quite intelligent. One of the brunettes, the second in command, I called her. When she's confronted by this private detective, they are starting to flirt, especially when she realizes he is a private detective after her. And she basically says right away, after knowing the guy for what, half a minute, do you want to fuck me? So which the private detective's response?
You like to make love?
Didn't I tell you I'm a professional dick?
That was one of the best voiced lines in movies I've ever heard. That was really something. That was really, really something. Wow, I'd like that line. It doesn't just end there. I mean, there's so many bad lines here. This private detective is just also being really fool, like he's really dumb. Everybody's too dumb to do their job. Everybody's too dumb to actually still be in business. It's insane. And then you have this house where these women live. That's also the butchery. It makes no sense. It has all these weird rooms. The butchery, abattoir, whatever you call it, it has a smoke machine. It has smoke in the butchery, in the basement. In South California. Or where in California? That makes absolutely no sense. I do like my smoke in 80s movies and 90s movies, but please, not in the butcher. Abattoir, whatever you call it. Not where you have the meat and process the meat. It's too stupid. Other rooms like this weird Stonehenge room with showers that are actually not showers, but are pretend showers and weird light effects. Why? Why did these women do all these things? It's usually nice set pieces to kill men, but it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. And this weird snake room with this weird snake fetish, I mean, symbolism, of course, but why? And I really didn't dwell enough on this glam metal rock band. So this is 92. At this point, glam metal is pretty much dead. And they also don't look exactly that glam metal. The music they listen to actually sounds a bit more new wave. And the way they dress is kind of glam, but also slightly grunge, but also a bit punk. It's a bit all over the place. They're just so weird characters. They're just way too stupid and way too... It's a big cliche, and it's probably just meant to be a big cliche, but the music, it's so awful. The music is really some of the worst movie music I've ever heard. One of the songs has the lines, men are superior, women are inferior.
Men are superior, women are inferior.
Of course it's funny because it works with of course these men being killed off by women, but it's still like this misogyny glam metal displays that's so integral to glam metal.
And out of insanity, boys, comes music.
Of course the misogyny makes no sense in this movie because all the men are dying, or well, that's spoiler, but yes, all the men are killed off. So the women are superior. That's what the movie is saying. Even though the women are oddly misogynistic towards each other, like as I said before, there's victim blaming in this movie by Auntie Lee, so she's a terrible woman. I mean, of course, these women are killing men. Most of the men are innocent, so they're killing innocent men. They are the baddies.
Are we the baddies?
No doubt about it. Anyway, I'll wrap up here. I've talked too much about this movie. I just wanted to make a quick lazy recommendation. Basically, my final thoughts is, when I watched this movie, I thought this is what you would get if Andy Sidaris made Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's really what it feels like, only with Andy Sidaris, there would be more boobs. There would honestly be more boobs. That's not enough nudity in this one. I know, having talked so much about misogyny in this movie, it might come off that yes, I do like nudity in my movies, but you can do nudity without it being problematic. You know, unproblematic nudity. What's wrong with it? I also like, talking about Andy Sidaris, the men are quite nice in those movies as well. Actually, I tend to look more at the men in those movies because their bodies are spectacular. If you don't know who Andy Sidaris is, stay tuned. One day I might tell you who he is. One day, hopefully. Anyway, that's all what I had. This is a really entertaining movie. It's not a masterpiece or anything, but I had a terribly good time watching it, and I wanted to recommend it to you. Bye.